Hi, I'm Shatasia Fields-White, and I'm here with Antoinette and Kristel Graces. Today, we will be highlighting some ideologies of sexism in the music industry. We have interviewed two different music artists to come up with some explanations and answers.
There is this ideology that women who are musical artists are held to a different standard than the men in the music industry. It is said women must create and limit their lyrics based upon their age. Meanwhile, the men can create music without any sort of restrictions. There have been debates on social media platforms and other forms of media that back up these claims.
This topic also brings us toward the discussion of feminism in the music industry. What women should or should not do, or how they carry themselves, always comes up in conversation between other musical artists and media outlets. The theory stems from the way that society views women based on their class, race, and occupations.
We have come to the conclusion that there is a double standard for women in the industry because the United States, it's a male-dominated country. We came to this conclusion by analyzing mainly rappers like Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, Chris Brown, and Trey Songz. Analyzing their musical content and the reaction it gets from its public helps us understand the kind of society we live in and the double standards that exist for males and females.
So the first article I read talks about how the music industry glorifies men with their depression, pretty much like when they appear with like tattoos all over their faces and they color their hair and things like that. I feel like when men get into the music industry, at first they're like very like bland, like they're like regular looking guys, and then once they become famous, they, over exaggerate their appearance, and then with all the stardom and all the attention, that can bring about them feeling pressured and then going into depression. And I feel like a lot of people in the music industry and fans, they glorify depression with male artists. Like they can, they feel sorry for them, they'll bump their music even more, like they can out of nowhere relate to them, like stuff like that. But when it comes down to women who suffer from depression, for example, like Britney Spears, many years ago, she was going through pretty much a midlife crisis. She shaved her head bald, and people were quick to make fun of her. People were quick to call her crazy. They were quick to criticize her, all because she was a woman. And other artists too, like Demi Lovato, who suffered with like drug addiction and stuff like that, and like almost committed suicide. Like a lot of artists, like they'll say, "Oh, pray for them" and stuff, but they still don't take it as seriously as opposed to when men are going through things. I feel like they get more compassion and more leniency. So the first article that I read talked about that, and how when male artists who are with the tattoos and with the very inappropriate lyrics, younger people who listen to that, they become influenced by that, and they feel like out of nowhere they're depressed. So I feel like it's a very big difference when men are going through something or they're feeling like all lonely, as opposed to when a woman is going through something and she needs help.
We also have to remember that mental health issues are in the rise today, according to Psychology Today, and most of the music aimed for men for the longest time, including substance abuse. So I believe it's safe to say that men have been heavily influenced by the music they listen to, leading them to drugs. And according to National Institute on Drug Abuse, the chronic use of drugs lead to mental health issues. So I think that we must be really careful how this music is portrayed, and I think it's horrible that it's being glorified. One artist, his name is Lil Uzi, his lyrics literally say, push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. So again, the song became so popular, it was like, you always heard it on Z100, and it's like, should we really be listening to that? So that's the question that it raises again, following this ideology that, it's okay for men to do this, but not women.
The double standard that seems to happen is that men have to be strong and women are supposed to deal with it, but not deal with it in the same time. Especially as a woman, it's easy to relate because it's like you're crazy because you're depressed, but you still need to go figure it out and not show it. Meanwhile, men can show it and not be considered crazy or anything like that, but it doesn't always work like that for women, unfortunately.
I absolutely agree because women nowadays do a lot more than men. They have to get the kids ready to school and still have to go to work and then come home from work, cook, and help the kids out with their homework. I say this because I see it in my own household, and it's like women have to be superheroes, and on top of that, have you ever seen your mom get sick and still hold it down regardless? But when men get sick, they act like they can't even lift a finger. This all ties down to what the role of woman has been perceived as and how it's been passed down.
So another article that delves into the issue of sexism in the industry was pretty much about how women are objectified in the music industry, such as Madonna, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. They're not really respected because they're so open with their sexuality, and they're very quick to be called whores and hoes, and they're not wife material. Even the fact that Cardi B is married, people don't even take her marriage seriously based off of her past history of what she was doing when she was younger, being a stripper, and she's very open about sex. But when men are open about sex, like Trey Songz and Chris Brown and other artists who are portrayed to be attractive or appealing to young women and men, they get glorified for being pretty much a sex symbol. That's what that's what they're called. They're sex symbols. And I feel like the double standard is that how come women can't be open about their sexuality and want to express the things that they want and need from a man without having to deal with the backlash of being called a hoe or being put out there or just being judged for doing literally the exact same thing that these men are doing. These men get on stage and they take their shirts off and they have sex with pretty much women on stage, and girls go crazy, they throw their underwear at them. But when Cardi B is like dry humping somebody or she's doing a split or they're twerking, it's just like, oh, ew, that looks nasty, she needs to put some clothes on. Like, there's a really big double standard. I feel like if you're gonna be open about your sexuality like that, that doesn't make you any less of wife material. And I feel like that's what the article pretty much talked about, was how, men can be overly sexual and still be accepted and not judged for it and be glorified, as women are bashed. What do you guys think about that?
You know what's interesting about that? The fact that women are accepted for their sexuality in the moment, but then once the moment is gone, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, another artist that received a lot of backlash is Miley Cyrus. First, she received a lot of backlash because how openly sexual she is as well. And we seem to forget that Miley is like a human being just like everyone else. And she was going through a heartbreak, I felt like. So women are taught to just get over it and probably just cry about it. But Miley decided to be free and not care about what other people think about her. Another reason she got a lot of backlash is because of her use of marijuana. Again, she's one of the few female artists who displays the use of marijuana through her social media. She got so much backlash, but we never hear Wiz Khalifa get any backlash, especially his song Living Young, Wild and Free, which I think the title says enough. And he never got backlash about that song, which is sung like a national anthem, and it's, again, perfect example of the use of drugs for artists having double standards, and how for a woman like Miley Cyrus, she's supposed to be this role of a perfect human being, and because she's female, she can't portray her marijuana use.
I agree, because you do see a lot of women in the music industry getting a lot of this backlash for the things that they do. But what's interesting to me is that the backlash typically doesn't come with every genre of music. You mostly see female rappers, getting most of the backlash than you would see other female artists. Because let's say you see Beyonce make a song about sex. What's the song Beyonce has about sex?
Dance for You?
Mm-hmm. She has a song about Dance for You, but everybody loves Dance for You. But then let Nicki Minaj make a song like Good Form. Nicki Minaj is a hoe for making the song Good Form, but Beyonce is not the same. The backlash comes with the genre also, and it's very unfortunate because when it's men, they don't get the backlash. Whether it's R&B, pop, hip hop, rap, or anything, they don't get the same reaction that the women get, and the way it's so split up also like makes a difference.
I agree. I think that that's really true, and I also feel like it kind of ties into like women being their own person and being independent. I feel like women for so long, when I was growing up, I used to listen to a lot of like heartbreak music, and like Keisha Cole would talk about, you know, how to get over a breakup and how she was so hurt by her breakup and things of that nature. And men never really talked about that. They talked about having multiple women and sleeping with multiple girls and replacing one girl and having a girl on the side and stuff like that. So I feel like when artists like Nicki Minaj, I hate to keep referencing back to her, but she's such an iconic symbol in the music industry, especially being a woman, especially being a vocal woman. Like, she makes music about being independent, not relying on no guy for anything. And Cardi B as well, she made her song, what is it called? I Do What I Like, or something like that, on her album, and she pretty much was talking about like the difference between like a girl who can't do for herself and the power of a woman who can do for herself. Like, you don't need a man to really do those things. So I feel like when women have that voice of being independent, like, and wanting to not rely on a man, that's also looked down upon, on top of them being open about being sexual. But men can be vocal about having multiple women. Like, I just feel like the double standard is just like, it's just ridiculous. It's really like crazy. Growing up and listening to that, it's like, I feel like when I was younger, I didn't really like know much about it. I just would just vibe with the music. But as I got older, especially with feminism being such a prominent thing that's going on right now, it really shows you the difference between men and women, music, especially in hip hop and in R&B for sure, and rap.
That's true. You know what I heard you say, the like Cardi B had that song saying like she can do this and she can do that, and like you said, like now that is looked down upon, but it's very weird because it's like women are now starting to empower themselves in the music industry, and they're empowering other women who are not in the music industry too. They're empowering the way they look, the kind of money they get, how much money they have, what they're doing, like what the voice that they have, they're expressing it, but it's so looked down upon, and it's like, why? Because men do the same thing. They talk about the money they have and the change they have and the cars they drive and the houses and the girls, but when women do it, it's bad. So the men can empower one another, but the women can't. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like as women, we're definitely getting our voice back. It is a little bit harder because for so long we didn't have a voice, but I feel like the more music that's made about being independent and, you know, if you want to sleep with 5 different guys in one night, we can. The fact that that's being so pushed out there, of course we're going to get backlash for it. Of course we're not going to be taken seriously because, like I said, it has been happening for a very long time. But yeah, I feel like right now women, we're getting power.
I agree. We're finally getting back this voice that hasn't been heard. A huge part of that plays into this feminist movement that we have going on recently. Cardi's B Rise of Fame happened to come around the same time the most recent wave of feminism movement came about. The most recent wave of feminism came about 2017, which was right after the inauguration campaign of President Donald Trump. Cardi's B Bodak Yellow album also came out in 2017. So, and you know, women and members of the LGBT community and minorities are inferior of the injustice seen by this campaign election. Right after his inauguration, there were several women marches across the nation. These marches promoted equality for women, so it is a push for equality for women in the music industry as well. Because of this wave, women are no longer staying quiet. We're letting our voices be heard, and one of the most important platforms is through music, and we must support it for the rights of women.
I think it's also because we are breaking what's not seen to be normal, and people don't expect what's going on. A long time ago, when music came about, they didn't really think that it would get to this point where women would be having this much of a voice, especially through their music. You know, they're influencing the younger generation, they're influencing us, they're influencing a lot of different people, different races, different sexes, gender, sexuality, things of that nature. And, you know, it's just hard for people to take in and actually believe it's going on. So I also think that might be a part of where the backlash comes from. And they also expect I don't know why, but a lot of people expect these women to be role models. They didn't sign up to be a role model. This is just what they like to do. This is their profession. They are not here to teach your kids. Kids are easy influence, so if anything, you need to be teaching your kids, and you should know right from wrong from what you take from somebody else's life or in what you're given to another person, because you can't force someone else to be a role model for you or for a child or for any generation. You have to do it for yourself, because whether they're in the spotlight or not, that's not what they signed up for. They don't get a check to be a role model, unfortunately.
That's very true. I remember when Cardi B, I believe she went on her Instagram Live, and someone had wrote a comment, I think it was a comment on one of her pictures or her videos or something like that, saying how it was a mother, and she felt like Cardi B's music was having a bad influence on her daughter and other young girls. And even Cardi B said, like, if I'm not your daughter's role model, then that's fine. She doesn't have to listen to my music. I'm not for everybody. I'm from an audience who can either agree with me or they just bump my music. I'm not here to be a role model. Like, she didn't sign up for that. And like you said, they do not get paid to be a role model. Like, do male artists get paid to be a role model? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, they don't. And, them, portraying that they can sleep with multiple women 2-3 times a week, do I want my son listening to that? If I had a kid, no. But that doesn't mean like he has to listen to them. They're not obligated to make music to appease to our children. So I feel like that's also really true how you mentioned that.
Let them listen to Sesame Street. If you want a role model.
Right? If you want them to listen to something that relate, or freaking, I don't know, SpongeBob or something, or Dora the Explorer, something that I guess fits their age group. Like, if you're gonna be listening to Hot 97 on the radio in the car, taking your kid to school, what do you think is gonna be coming on? Cardi B? Like, hello? Like, what? Like, you can change your setting, you can change what you're listening to.
I know exactly the IG Live video that you're talking about, because then it became like a viral picture that went like everywhere, and it's just again like how the media portrays things. Like, it was trying to like say to Cardi B, like, you should make this kind of music, but then Cardi B went on and saying, this music wasn't made for children, it was made for adults. And it's so ironic because that mom is being so concerned, because when I was a kid, I didn't know what sex was. Like, I was just singing these things not knowing what they meant.
Yeah, me too.
And so when I was young, I used to listen to music from pop singer Shakira, and one of her songs named Ciega Sordo Muda says that she has become dumb, blind, and deaf and stubborn because she has fallen for this guy who, and because of that, she can't do anything but love this guy. Again, it was sending me a message that I can't do anything with my life but love this guy. Like, so I'm singing this as a kid, and I know perfectly what these words mean, and it's going into my unconscious. And like we said before, songs were made for us back in the day, for us to keep going into the stereotypical role of just being in love with men and not taking our own priorities seriously.
Yeah.
That's why it's so hard for women today to understand, to put their education first, because of the songs that were embedded into our brains when we were kids. And instead we put men first and follow the stereotypical role of society.
We decided to conduct 2 interviews, one from a female artist and one from a male artist. Pretty much these interviews were just to kind of highlight some of, or get opinions on feminism in the music industry and the double standards that also exist. One of the artists we interviewed was Audley Shay, and the other artist we interviewed was Yuri Jones. We asked them both the same questions, and we will just go through the questions and their responses, and then we'll just like give our little comments on how we felt about it. Our first question was, how did you choose your target audience for your music? Audley Shay stated, I like rap and I'm a feminist, so I chose based on my personal lifestyle.
Yuri Jones said, I chose based on what I like to make my music about and my sound. I use my unique sound for advantage. I also use my life to relate to people who have a similar journey.
Our second question was, does the age of your target audience matter? Audley Shay says, yes. I know all ages will listen and do listen, but my target audience is 15 years old to early 30s.
Yuri Jones said, well, my target audience will always be mixed depending on what people like to hear, but I know I'm reaching younger generations and some of the old heads. That's funny.
Our third question was, how does your age affect your lyrics? Adli Shay says, my age affects my lyrics because I'm talking about today's issues and how people my age feel on things going on or how women are treated daily.
Yuri Jones said, my age affects my lyrics because I put what my generation is getting into today, and I also put what I know people want to hear. My age is what attracts my target audience too.
Our fourth question was, should your age affect what you speak about? Adli Shay answered, nah, I'm gonna say whatever I want, always.
Period. Yuri Jones said, honestly speaking, no. Make music on whatever you like. If you're making music from your heart, then who cares? You're still getting the check at the end of the day, which is what a lot of artists think, in my opinion, right to the bag, to the money.
Do you think there's a double standard for women in the music industry when they create their lyrics? Adli Shay said, of course, people are haters. They let men say whatever they want, whenever they want, and no one says anything to them. Why does what women say in their lyrics always have everyone in their feelings and but her?
Yuri Jones said, yeah, there definitely is. Women are told to limit what they make music about. If they're getting a check for it, why should they? I don't see why. I mind my business though and stay in my own lane because no one can tell Yuri Jones what he should or should not talk about.
Does their age, so we asked Adli Shay, does their age matter when they create lyrics? Should they have a limit on what they can or cannot say in their music when they create content? So she responded, their age shouldn't matter, nor should there be a limit. What's interesting is that this conversation usually comes up when it's about female rappers. It's odd because females in other genres are not told what they should limit themselves, but female rappers are. If a female rapper is talking about sex, drugs, or even violence or gangs at a certain age or even at a young age, they need to be ladylike. But if someone sings it, then it's not the same criticism. Beyonce sings about sex and it's not bash, but if Nicki raps about sex, she is told to find other content. Why? I think it's an agenda against females rappers, and this is coming from a female rapper myself. And then Yuri Jones says, age shouldn't matter, but everyone has their own opinions. I'm all for what's gonna bring in money for me, strictly off what I like to make music about. I'm sure they're doing the same. They should say whatever they want. It's their music. People are going to buy and listen to music until the end of times. No one is telling men what they should or should not say in their songs. Everyone should stay in their lane like me. Only exception I feel should be a song featured on your own song. Other than that, let them rock.
So I feel like with the interviews, in the beginning they kind of felt the same way. Like they were both targeting like young people, to like a little bit of the older people. They both made music about their lifestyle and about themselves. Cool. But then once later on in the interview, we got to the double standard part. They both agree that there is a double standard for both men and women, which I feel like a lot of men sometimes don't want to admit because they want to make it seem like, oh no, like women can do that, knowing that they have the double standard. So I felt like that was pretty cool how Yuri was actually acknowledging the fact that women are told to limit what they say and how that's not fair, and how he doesn't see why, because at the end of the day they're still getting money. Why should they have to limit what makes them money? And then Adli Shay felt like, women should be able to say whatever they want in their lyrics, in which I feel like they should too. Like if they want to express themselves and they make money from it, there should be no one telling them what to say and how to say it in order to appease. Like no, absolutely not.
At the end of the day, like Yuri said, stay in your lane.
Period.
Period.
I agree.
I think the most interesting thing that Adli Shay said is that I think it's an agenda against female rappers, and this is coming from me, a female rapper myself. So I feel like she, in a way, feels the pressure of society, and like what her saying this like really is an example that there is this sort of agenda, and I think that relates to this whole ideology thing about men being empowered and not women.
I agree.
So just to end off, there is this ideology that this is a male-dominated world, so that's why things were created in a way for women that have to stick to these ideologies of women can't be seen as this, women can't say that, and that's why it's portrayed in the music industry.
Okay.